The focus of this report should be on Suzette Gay Thompson, but instead it's on CAIR and their press conference.
Members of the Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations say the community is struggling after an alleged attempt to burn down an East Grand Forks mosque earlier this month. Today, CAIR-MN talked about what led to the incident and how they're responding. Valley News Team Jillian Trudeau was there and has our story.
Above, the physical damage was averted thanks to our brother who was at the right location at the right time. But we as a community are traumatized. Our community members are fearful, and because of the attendance of our service have dropped.
Members at the Islamic Center in East Grand Forks faced a life-threatening situation earlier this month.
I think it's a shock. We just dealt with 3 incidents in the last 4 months in Minnesota, and to have an incident this dangerous, it really shocked the conscience.
On June 6th, a woman dressed in Islamic attire came into the Islamic Center during prayer and attempted to light a tapestry divider on fire. She was identified as Suzette Gay Thompson of Thief River Falls.
This is not a small incident. This is a major incident for a human being to drive an hour away to come at a time when people were defenseless.
She was stopped by a mosque member who was washing up before prayer. Now, the Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations is asking the FBI to thoroughly investigate the incident and to charge Thompson with federal hate crimes.
She knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted to have, this wasn't somebody with a lighter. This was somebody with a lighter and a spray can to create as much damage as possible.
For now, Thompson is charged with 2 counts of first-degree arson. Jillian Trudeau, Valley News Live.
Hussein says that going forward, the Islamic Center will strengthen its security, and he says he wants the community to be aware that these attacks still happen.
The Council on American Islamic Relations wants FBI involvement nearly 2 weeks after a possible hate crime where a woman attacked an East Grand Forks mosque during morning prayer.
57-year-old Suzette Gay Thompson of Thief River Falls is arrested on an arson charge and could face up to 20 years in prison and a $20,000 fine. Jaylani Hussein, the executive director of CAIR Minnesota, says Thompson's charge should be upgraded to a hate crime. He believes hate crimes are better addressed under federal support. Hussein says the Muslim community in East Grand Forks is still in shock that an older woman would drive more than an hour away to start the fire in a house of worship. He says less people are coming to prayers fearing for another incident.
Good evening, I'm Justin Benny. Tonight, members of the Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations say the community is struggling after an attempt to burn down an East Grand Forks mosque earlier this month.
The Federal Bureau has more resources. They track different groups better, and they are able to investigate it better, identifying hidden motives when it's not obvious for local police. And most local police are not actually properly trained in identifying hate crimes.
Hussein says the Muslim community in East Grand Forks is still in shock that an older woman would drive more than an hour away to start the fire in a house of worship. He says fewer people are coming to prayer, fearing another incident.
In other news this morning, the Council on American Islamic Relations is calling for more serious charges to be filed in an alleged arson attempt at the East Grand Forks Islamic Center earlier this month. Right now, the suspect, Suzette Gay Thompson of Thief River Falls, faces 2 counts of first-degree arson. Muslim leaders are calling for the Department of Justice to charge Thompson with a federal hate crime.
Even then, they sanitize CAIR's presser, ignoring Jaylani Hussein's statement that mental illness is not an excuse.
Yep, so any questions?
Are you positive that this is maybe something more than maybe a mental illness on behalf of the suspect that's being charged? That hasn't gone through the court process yet.
Yeah, so the mental state of an individual can be taken into consideration, but the attack is still a hate crime, regardless of what the mental state. And we know sometimes it's mental ill people who bomb, like the Nashville bomber and many others. So mental illness is unfortunately something that we need to deal with as a country, but you have to still have a target and hate people to an extent that you would show up and do that. Has shooken our community here in the Twin Cities, in Minnesota, and also here, obviously, in East Grand Forks. And today we are calling for the Department of Justice to properly charge her with federal hate crime. Minnesota Muslims are facing unprecedented attack against our centers. We are now the highest per capita in the country of attacks against Muslims, and we rank the highest, among the highest, fourth in the country of all attacks against Muslims in America. We are behind states like California and Texas and New York. This is partially because of the anti-Muslim movement, white supremacy, and white nationalists who have targeted our community. When our community stands together and when our law enforcement start to focus on the greatest threat to all of us, white nationalism and white supremacy.
Once again, Jaylani tells us that white people are our greatest threat. There really should be greater attention paid to this statement, because CAIR acts on this several times each month. 99% of the people CAIR attacks on TV are white. They don't like white people, and they are an explicitly racist organization.
White people have certain privilege and entitlement that they can do anything and they can get away with.
Racism is the default state of affairs in America for anyone who's not white.
Get uncomfortable, white people. Get uncomfortable, white people. This community is very resilient. I met with the imam and the leaders this week, and they are resilient, but they are asking for your support. They know that they have a lot of work to do to secure this building. We'll be working with them to get some federal support, particularly with security, but there's additional needs that they need to make sure that their community feels safe.
Did you ever get a damage estimate, anything like that?
I would say the damage is very minimal just because of as you can see, the damage was really just to that one curtain. But I think the psychological damage is that we want better cameras. We want to be able to deal with the situation much different. We need a thorough investigation into her, but also possibly if she was part of a network or a cell that's active here in Minnesota that is encouraging people to commit this type of crime. Now,
CAIR is the one inspiring crimes. They turned the town of Maplewood, New Jersey against Tamar Herman over a rumor on social media.
The executive director for the Council on American Islamic Relations calling for the teacher to be fired.
They turned the town of Dearborn, Michigan against Bill Larian for using the word camels in a Facebook comment.
We turn now to breaking news. A Dearborn City employee caught in a lie about a racist Facebook post is off the job tonight. We broke the news with a push alert to your phone.
After claiming his Facebook account got hacked, his attorney is now confirming Larian is behind a disgusting and racist post. The Council on American Islamic Relations also called for swift action for the dehumanizing slur against all people of Arab ancestry.
They turned the town of Toms River against Dan Leonard for laughing at Ilhan Omar on Facebook.
He's not backing down. He's not apologizing. He's not even, insinuating that there's something wrong about it. The Board of Education needs to ask for his resignation.
As a result of CAIR's publicity, the school board staff received numerous phone calls constituting harassment and threats. And the board and board staff had been receiving terroristic threats which were upsetting to the staff. Secretaries were inundated with vile language on the phone. Dan Leonard receives many threatening and harassing emails that have threatened harm to his family and his children, including the threatened rape of his daughter. There is no white group that gets on TV several times a month and tries to push Muslims out of a job. Only CAIR is doing this to white people. WCCO is in such a rush to put Jaylani Hussein on camera that they don't make it clear what it is he's complaining about.
Well, the Minnesota Department of Corrections is being called out for what some say is a lack of action on allegations of sexual assault at Shakopee Women's Prison. Several groups rally outside the prison today asking for justice. They say that this prison has a history of sexual violence and abuse between guard and inmate, something they say the DOC has ignored.
I dare to tell you today that the Department of Corrections has more secrets than the American mob.
They are not above the law, and they should be held to the same standard as everybody else.
We asked the DOC for their take on the situation. In a statement, they told us in part, quote, "We always have and always will take allegations of misconduct seriously, but the demands by this group reflect a lack of understanding of the legal process that must guide our actions." And you can find the DOC's entire response on WCCO.com.
CAIR has nothing to do with this story. Notice that even the spokesperson for the church makes no acknowledgement of CAIR's involvement. Nevertheless, CAIR is in the headline to this broadcast.
What I just learned that Governor Glenn Youngkin's Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security just happened to be in the Reston area when this all happened. He met with the priest here. He said this should have never happened, and he wants to find who did this. It was a shocking sight Sunday morning at St. John Newman Catholic Community Church in Reston, Virginia.
It's deeply concerning to people in the St. John Newman community.
Parishioners found graffiti on their church and acts of arson. CAIR, the largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group in the nation, is coming to the Catholic Church's defense.
Whatever someone's views on abortion are, attacking a house of worship is a completely unacceptable way of expressing that viewpoint.
As emotions run high on both sides of the topic of abortion following the U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's administration says vandalism, violence, and other crimes will not be tolerated on both sides.
The governor cares deeply about our First Amendment rights and the rights of every Virginian. So when people want to come out and they want to protest or they want to air those grievances, there's a way to do that. And the way that you do that is not with violence or not with vandalism.
The governor's administration says they're providing resources to hold who vandalized St. John Newman Catholic Church accountable and find who damaged and vandalized a pregnancy center in Lynchburg.
What happened at that church should not have happened. And it shouldn't have happened at the place in Lynchburg as well. I mean, these things shouldn't happen, and we're not going to tolerate it.
The church in Reston says they're now adding more security.
You do hope for accountability, that people who do this kind of thing are held accountable for it. But we hope to also rise above it. And by being people of faith and being people of peace, that we will continue to do what we do. We will continue to teach what we teach, and we will continue supporting those in need.
So this is TV station WJLA, which also brought you this.
As Muslim families observe the final nights of Ramadan, there are new disturbing numbers that have Arab and Muslim communities concerned and on high alert.
No, sorry, these claims were already a year old before John Gonzalez filed his report. This was a hoax, and there will be no follow-up reporting on this story by WJLA.
Thank you. 6:31, and we are following another issue in the classroom this morning. CAIR, or the Council on American Islamic Relations, is calling for a hate crime investigation at Fairfax High School. A Muslim student there says she was assaulted because of her religion. The student says she was knocked down and had her job taken off.
Physically, my whole left side of my body is bruised. Mentally, I'm okay because I have all the support around me today.
Of course, we will update you on any new developments.
This was also a hoax. 7 broadcasts about this story, only one of which reported the police saying it was a firecracker, and there was no evidence the Islamic Center was targeted by anyone.
In Washington, the Council on American Islamic Relations now calling for an investigation after police say someone lit an object and threw it out of a car window at the Islamic Center of Olympia.
Thurston County Sheriff's deputies say it appeared to be a firework.
Thurston County Sheriff's Department doesn't believe that the incident that happened here was a targeted attack on the Islamic Center. Even so, they tell me they plan on increasing patrols.
And right now on the front side of the St. John Newman Catholic Church sign here, the graffiti is now washed away, but still a lot of parishioners here. They're nervous, they're shaken about what happened, and they're not the only church with these kinds of concerns right now. Reporting live in Reston, Nick Minock, 7 News.
The broadcast is just one more example of the romance between local newscasters and the Council on American Islamic Relations.
CAIR, the largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group in the nation, is coming to the Catholic Church's defense.